Okay, let's take a look at some good and bad summary writing in this activity here. So here's the original, and I've highlighted this yellow and green too, even though depending on whether you're looking at this summary or this summary here, this should be yellow or green. We don't know, but mostly it'll be the same. So let's look at this for example, which is held by the user to find and read aloud specially designed signs in the environment. These signs, and if you look down here, you can see the very same words. Is held by the user to find specially designed signs in the environment. These signs. Look here. You see a little flash of green and then more yellow, and another flash of green and more yellow. This is a sign of what I call paraphrasing by synonym, where you just look through and you're trying to change this to put it in your own words, and you realize, oh, wait, I know a synonym for consist. We can say they are made of instead of consist of. and then the yellow continues of barcodes placed, and then you say, oh, adjacent. Oh, I know that word. It's synonym to next to. Yeah, there we go. But you can see that these little flashes of green in a sea of yellow, that it's still mostly the wording of the original author here. So anyway, you can go through the rest of this and sort of follow along with me and see how these things are changed. Oh, ubiquitous, that's a fancy word that means everywhere. You'll see that this person has phrased it here as widely available in stores. That's pretty good. That is some pretty good paraphrasing. It has the same meaning, but the words are completely different. That's what the ideal is. Okay. Now, you'll see some blue here. This is where the summary writer has given their own opinion. So several authors have described the use of commercially available technology to assist blind people, for example. So clearly that's not something that these authors said about their own work. It's somebody else talking about their work. And so that should be blue. And then everything where we talk about Coughlin and Manduki, we'll make that in that sort of pink or purple. Mostly it consists of, we becoming they. So in our system, it's in their system. And our main technological innovation becomes their main technological innovation. So, of course, you need to do that, but doing that is not enough to make this a decent paraphrase or summary. So the author did do something well. At least they gave credit to these people. And they've made some attempts to put it in their own words, but it would still be considered plagiarism, because when I read this and I see a citation, I know that the information came from this source, but I'm assuming the words came from the summary writer. And as we can see by all this yellow, they did not, and so that is considered plagiarism. Okay, so now let's take a look at this much better summary. So the main thing you can notice is there's a lot less yellow here. It's also a lot shorter. So, and there are a lot of areas where I couldn't really specifically pinpoint an area in the original that I can say, oh yes, this part corresponds to this part. So that's a good thing. You still see the citations here. Here's the citation at the very beginning that tells the reader the summary begins here. And then every now and then they'll give what we call a reminder phrase, just reminding us that we are still reading a summary. And this is important because your summary will usually be part of a larger piece of writing, and we need to know when the summary ends. Okay, so here's the blue. Several authors, recent work, similar to those found on store packaging. So that's the author's own opinion. You'll see that there's nothing about that in the original summary. Offers the potential for improved guidance. This seems to be the summary writer's opinion. I think the original authors would probably agree, but I can't really see where they say something like this. Also notice this cell phone guidance system has 4 important advantages: first, second, third, and finally. Even though all of these advantages are in the original paragraph, they're not in this same order, and they're not specifically laid out. There are 4 advantages. That is this summary writer's own way of presenting this information. So that's good. That's another way of making this information your own. Now let's look at some of the green here. Printed on paper to help blind people find their way. How does that set up here? Um, I can't really remember it, but let's see what else. What else do we have here? That can be implemented with minimal cost. Where does that come up here? Um, I don't remember. But oh, this is nice. The system does not draw attention to the user. What does that correspond to? I know that that corresponds to which raises none of the cosmetic concerns that arise with other technology. So this is awesome paraphrasing here. What does it mean to raise a cosmetic concern? Well, cosmetic means it having to do with appearances. So what is a concern having to do with appearances? In other words, you'll look weird carrying around this weird piece of machinery. Okay, so that is a cosmetic concern. Will I look weird? And how do they have here? The system does not draw attention to the user. So in other words, you'll look basically like other people. So that's a great example of completely different words, but similar meaning. You won't always be able to do that well, but I like to point to it when I can see it. Oh, similarly, and can be discreetly used. That means can be used without drawing attention to yourself. Now, let's talk about the words that are still yellow. Let's, for example, computer vision algorithm. Okay, that's really not a term you can change very much. Algorithm is a technical term. Computer vision is a technical term. Probably this is simply what people call this kind of technology in this field, a computer vision algorithm. If you change that, you're going to confuse people, and they might not even realize what you're talking about. Visually impaired. Okay, that's a very common way of saying blind or not entirely blind, but still having difficulties with vision. You don't have to change that. That's a word that everybody uses. Okay. Assistive devices. Okay, that's a very common term for this kind of technology. Other thing, now inexpensive. Now that's a word that they could have replaced with cheap, but still it's not too bad. There are going to be some words that are the same. But the point is that for some technical terms like assistive devices or computer vision algorithm or visually impaired, or for that matter, wayfinding. I think wayfinding is a technical term. You don't have to change those. So leave those the same and then change the other things that you can change.